Criston Cole's entire character revolves around Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, the woman he first dedicated his life to protecting, then putting all his efforts to taking everything away from her.
I missed you now. No, a Cole of the Stormlands. I've never heard of House Cole.
House of Dragon added in a tad bit more to his backstory to make a full fleshed out character. The lore books only describe his life before that big tourney as just the son of a steward who served House Dondarrion. House Dondarrion is a prominent family in the Stormlands, but far from the status of Great House in Westeros. So if House Cole just served the Dondarrions, they're far down the nobility ladder. The Coles may not even be lords, could be some landed knights like the Cleganes. Landed knights are somewhere between a knight and a lord. Being landed just means they have a keep and some land to their family's name. But with Criston being the only official named member, we don't know the Cole status. Show writers added in some real combat experience against the Dornish to his resume before applying for the role of Kingsguard. A lot of men that hail from Criston Cole's neck of the woods have a martial culture ingrained in them. Men from the southern Stormlands are built tougher and are generally more skilled because of the endless fighting with their neighbor Dorne. This martial culture birthed Criston Cole and even Barristan Selmy years down the line. Both these characters gained the attention of the royal Targaryens by participating in tourneys that a king was attending. That's the dream of most knights in this world. From here on out, I guess I should say I'll be using the book's version of things since it is the source material. Sir Criston was a comely young knight of 23 years. He first came to the attention of the court when he won the melee held at Maidenpool in honor of King Viserys' ascension. In the final moments of the fight, Sir Criston knocked Darksister from Prince Daemon's hand with his Morning Star, to the delight of his grace and the fury of the prince. Afterward, he gave the 7-year-old Princess Rhaenyra the victor's laurel, and begged for her favor to wear in the joust. In the lists, he defeated Prince Daemon once again, and unhorsed both the celebrated Cargyle twins of the Kingsguard, before falling to Lord Lyman Mallister. He didn't quite win the tourney joust like in the show, but shocked the crowd by defeating the dangerous rogue prince twice in a single event. Daemon was the man Rhaenyra loved having around at court. He would tell her of his wild adventures and bring her back gifts. Criston was better at something than her uncle Daemon, and it seems like Rhaenyra, even at this young age, had a thing for remarkable people. She was so smitten by his charm, green eyes, and coal-black hair that she begged her father to name Sir Criston as her own personal shield and protector, calling him her White Knight. King Viserys indulged her in this, as in so much else. Thereafter, Criston always wore her favor in the lists and became a fixture at her side during feasts and wherever else the princess wanted to go. Only a year after this breakout tourney performance, Criston was appointed to the Kingsguard to replace the old knight, Sir Ryan Redwine, this background character that we see in a couple scenes during the series premiere of House of Dragon. Rhaenyra's influence on the king wasn't needed here. Criston was not only worthy of the White Cape, he's the most skilled knight of this era. For 9 years, he stood by the princess's side, and when tensions between Rhaenyra and her stepmother, Queen Alicent, grew to a point where King's Landing's court had factions, Criston Cole was noted as her strongest supporter. In 111 AC, another tourney would be held, thanks to Viserys' realm being so prosperous. This time, it was in King's Landing, celebrating the 5th anniversary of the king's marriage to Queen Alicent. This may be the second, maybe third most iconic tourney in the lore, after the tourney of Harrenhal, of course. 111's Great Tourney is looked at as the informal creation of the Greens and Blacks, with Alicent wearing a green gown contrasting her rival Rhaenyra's dramatic red and black. Criston Cole, wearing the Princess Rhaenyra's favor, defeated all of Alicent's champions wearing her favor, including 2 Hightower cousins and one of the Queen's brothers, Sir Gawain Hightower. Drama at court was at an all-time high. That's why a prequel adapting it was made after all. Not just with the Greens and Blacks, but there was Daemon running around being a wild card. The princess's favorite jester, the dwarf Mushroom, spreads the rumor that behind closed doors, Daemon was teaching his teenage niece Rhaenyra how to please Criston Cole, so she wouldn't appear like a young and innocent princess that he met all those years ago. When he looks at you, he sees the little girl you were, not the woman you've become, Daemon told his niece. But I can teach you how to make him see you as a woman. This is the exact quote by TMZ reporter Mushroom, who is known to mix in some embellishments in with the truth to make for a crazier tale. During all these supposed lessons, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Harold Westerling, would die in 112 AC. A pretty big change for his character than what we see go down in House of the Dragon, where he's still alive and well. Criston Cole, oblivious to Rhaenyra's feelings, was named the new Lord Commander at age 30. Viserys eventually got some form of the truth about his brother Daemon grooming his daughter, so exiled him. Then made sure Rhaenyra was wed before news spread about her. It was decided that she would marry the very gay Laenor Velaryon. What happens next is up to the readers to decide. In one version of events, before the wedding day, Rhaenyra at last approached her White Knight using all she had learned, only to be met by a horrified Criston who turned her away. Sir Criston was a true knight, noble and chaste, and mindful of his vows. And though he was in her company day and night, he had never so much kissed her, nor made any declaration of his love. Ending any sort of camaraderie they shared, this pushed Rhaenyra to a captain of the city's watch, Sir Harwin Strong. Strongest knight in the Seven Kingdoms, another remarkable man. Another account reports Sir Criston slipped into the princess's bedchamber to confess his love for her. He told Rhaenyra that he had a ship waiting on the bay, and begged her to flee with him across the narrow sea. They would be wed in Tyrosh or Old Volantis, where her father's right did not run, and no one would care that Sir Criston had betrayed his vows as a member of the Kingsguard. His prowess with the sword and Morningstar was such that he did not doubt he could find some merchant prince to take him into his service. But Rhaenyra refused him. She was the blood of the dragon, she reminded him, and meant for more than to live her life as the wife of a common sellsword. And if he would set aside his Kingsguard vows, why would marriage vows mean any more to him? House the Dragon took both from these tales for their story, kinda like how the truth is always somewhere in between two different parties' perspectives. Whether it was disgust for Rhaenyra or her breaking his heart, from that day forward, the love that Sir Criston Cole had formerly borne for Rhaenyra Targaryen turned to loathing and disdain, and the man who had hitherto been the princess's constant companion and champion became the most bitter of her foes. In 114 AC, soon after the falling out, Rhaenyra Targaryen took to husband Laenor Velaryon. The bride was 17, the groom 20, and all agreed that they made a handsome couple. The wedding was celebrated with 7 days of feasts and jousting, the greatest tourney in many a year. Amongst the competitors were Queen Alicent's siblings, 5 sworn brothers of the Kingsguard, Breakbones, and the groom's favorite, Sir Joffrey Lonmouth, known as the Knight of Kisses. When Rhaenyra bestowed her garter on Sir Harwin, her new husband laughed and gave his own to Sir Joffrey. Denied Rhaenyra's favor, Criston Cole turned to Queen Alicent instead, wearing her token. The young Lord Commander of the Kingsguard defeated all challengers, fighting in a black fury. He left Breakbones, Rhaenyra's new toy, with a broken collarbone and a shattered elbow, prompting Mushroom to name him Broken Bones thereafter. But it was the Knight of Kisses who felt the fullest measure of his wrath. Cole's favorite weapon was the Morningstar, and the blows he rained down on Sir Laenor's champion cracked his helm and left him unconscious in the mud. Sir Joffrey died without recovering consciousness 6 days later. King Viserys was most wroth as well. A joyous celebration had become a gruesome spectacle. It was said that Queen Alicent did not share this displeasure. However, soon after, she asked that Criston Cole be made her personal protector. The coolness between the king's wife and the king's daughter was plain for all to see. Even envoys from the free cities made note of it. Criston had never previously been a violent man. The drama between the princess changed him. For the next 15 years, he loyally served Queen Alicent, paying special attention to her son Aemond in the training yard. Aemond may have lost an eye as a child, but he was determined to make something of himself. And Criston shaped him to be better than the kids on the black side. He was even better than his lazy older brother, Aegon. Criston didn't teach Aemond to call the strong boys bastards, nor did he ever openly suggest it. He was still the Lord Commander of Viserys' Kingsguard, despite his bias towards Alicent and her children. Viserys could forgive his psychotic display at the wedding tourney, but not calling Rhaenyra's children bastards. Rhaenyra eventually left King's Landing's court to permanently reside on Dragonstone. The White Knight was free from her presence. It was really better for everyone. Daemon Targaryen enters the whole Greens vs Blacks conflict after marrying Rhaenyra. Daemon is bad news for Criston. They barely interacted, but Daemon isn't one to forget after that loss in the tourney all those years ago. I know he still looks youthful in the show, but this is a character in his late 40s at the time of King Viserys' death. 48, I think. The night the king's health finally failed him, Criston became the Kingmaker. He's never called that name while he was alive. We hear it for the first time in the current Game of Thrones timeline, in the series' 4th book, A Feast for Crows, when some were questioning a Kingsguard vows. The first Viserys intended his daughter Rhaenyra to follow him, to deny it. But as the king lay dying, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard decided that it should be otherwise. So Criston Cole, Criston the Kingmaker, had set brother against sister and divided the Kingsguard against itself, bringing on the terrible war the singers named the Dance of the Dragons. Some claim he acted from ambition, for Prince Aegon was more tractable than his willful older sister. Others allowed him nobler motives, and argued that he was defending ancient Andal custom. A few whispered that Sir Criston had been Princess Rhaenyra's lover before he took the White and wanted vengeance on the woman who had spurned him. The Kingmaker wrought grave harm, Sir Aerys said, and gravely did he pay for it. Obviously, no spoilers here. Going back to the lore books, the epithet Kingmaker stuck around 170 years later because it was Criston, and only Criston in the books, that managed to convince Aegon to usurp the throne from his half-sister and allowed him to put a crown on top of his head. Criston was the one who found Aegon in one of the grosser places outside the castle. Aegon didn't want the crown. He believed it was his sister's right. Knowing Aegon, he just didn't care and didn't have much ambition. He's an empty sack of lust. While Alicent and Otto Hightower were gathering all the supporters that floated around them in King's Landing ever since Rhaenyra left. Criston informed Aegon that Rhaenyra and Daemon would hunt him out, as well as his siblings and children. Only then did Aegon agree to go through with the coronation. Criston got the all-out war against Rhaenyra he wanted. After decades of just hanging around the princess and then the queen, he'll have to enter a real battlefield with dragons involved. His character in the book and show are very similar. It's Alicent's character who switched up. She's far more likable and less bloodthirsty in House of the Dragon. Who knows if Criston actually believes the story he fed Aegon. Criston and Alicent hyped each other up in that echo chamber of Rhaenyra hate. He has to clear his mind now since Aegon ain't shit, and he'll have to carry the Queen's army on his back. A Lord Commander of the Kingsguard sits on small council meetings, so he's not new to decision making, but as the Kingmaker, Aegon and Alicent will look to him to do much more than just putting a crown on his head.